Hey guys, Andy Hake here with InsulWise in Pittsburgh, and we're going to talk real quick about the 10 things that you need to consider before having your attic re-insulated. A lot of people go down the road of having their attic insulation upgraded because their home might either be too cold, their bills are too high, one thing or the other, so they want to get this work done. So the first thing you need to consider is, are you going to do this the traditional method where you air seal the attic floor, you retrofit all the things you can get your hands on, vent the attic, or are you going to spray foam the underside of your roof and make your attic conditioned part of the home? So we'll look at the spray foam um, question first. Now, this is a popular thing. People see it on the internet and TV all the time, and it looks great. If you do it with closed cell foam in a cold climate like Pittsburgh, that's the right way that you want to do it. The drawback is that it tends to be expensive to use closed cell foam. If you use open cell foam, which is a little bit more popular, and sometimes the foam guys try to sell that stuff, you can run into a problem because open cell foam doesn't have a vapor barrier. Water vapor in homes rises, and that water vapor can diffuse through open cell foam and actually rot the underside of your roof in some situations. I know that this can occur because we had to redo an attic where this happened for a customer of ours 3 years ago. Just do some research on that on your own, and you'll be better educated on it. Now, what we're going to look at here is the existing method of doing this. So if you're going to go down that road, here's the things that you want to consider. Number one, do you need to do any electrical upgrades? Are you going to do rewiring? Do you need to install recessed lighting? Are you going to install a new bathroom fan? Anything with electrical or plumbing that's going to take place in the attic, you've got to do that first if you don't want to drive yourself crazy down the road. The second thing is you got to assess your roof ventilation. We see a lot of roofs that are poorly ventilated, they're underventilated, the ventilation's off balance, like this one, there's ridge vent, but there's no intake vents. So you need to assess that, because when you insulate the attic floor, you change the dynamic of the attic, and you're going to increase the chance of mold growth up here because the attic's going to be colder, and any water vapor that finds its way into the space is going to have a higher likelihood of condensing on the underside of the roof, which ultimately can cause a mold problem. Second thing is, do you have appliances that are venting water vapor into the attic? Do you have a dryer that's venting into the attic? Do you have bathroom fans venting into the attic? Excuse me. We still see this stuff all the time, which is crazy. If you do have these things going on, they've got to be vented out the right way through a designated roof vent or a soffit vent or sidewall vent. Don't allow some guy just to come out and aim it up toward the ridge vent because he's lazy and doesn't want to get on your roof. And he's going to try to maybe try to save you a couple of bucks doing that. You don't want to. The next thing is, do you have existing mold on the underside of your roof somewhere? We find that in probably 15 to 20% of the attics that we go into. You want to get mold remediated before any work up here gets done, because if you don't, the problem is likely to get worse. If you go to sell your home, the home inspector is going to find it, then you're going to have to deal with it. You just want to make sure you identify it and solve it before the attic work gets done. The next thing is, do you have a furnace or a duct system in your attic? The reason you got to think about this is because if you have a furnace that's a condensing furnace, meaning it's going to get its air intake and exhaust through PVC pipes, that type of a furnace generates water as it's working, and there's going to be a condensate line at the bottom. You've got to make sure that condensate line can't freeze while it's operating in your attic, or you're going to have a problem. If you've got a less energy efficient old school furnace, you don't have to worry about that, because the water vapor is going to go right out through the roof through the flue pipe. Now, if you've got a duct system up here, you want to take that into consideration. Duct systems in unconditioned spaces like attics are just they're really not an ideal thing, and they often are very leaky. This one here is extremely leaky, and we're going to retrofit it before we do insulation work up here, so it's much tighter and insulated. But you want to pay attention to this, because if you've got a leaky duct system in your attic, there might not be a bigger energy loss point in your whole house. Next thing is, do you have water lines in your attic? This might sound crazy that people might have water lines in their attic in a cold climate like Pittsburgh, but we still see this pretty often. If you have this, you just need to understand how to insulate them so that they don't freeze. We'll have a separate video link to how to do that in the description below. You basically need to insulate over the water line and not have any insulation between the heated surface below and the water line itself. Your house has to lose a little bit of heat in order to keep that from freezing. Next thing is you got to have a plan for air sealing the attic floor. And whether it's a contractor that you hire or you're going to try to do it yourself, you want to think through that process before you find yourself in this place. And we've got a great video that's going to be included in the link here for how to map air leaks out from below. But you want to have a plan for that before you get into this process, because you've absolutely got to air seal your attic floor if you're not going to go with the conditioned attic with a spray foamed roof. Next thing is, do you have an attic hatch or a door that's, you full-size door and walk upstairs? If you've got something like that, you've got to have a plan for, number one, insulating it and also having it be airtight, because the other side of that door is the outside. That's how you want to think about that. So you've just got to have a very good, effective barrier there that's also going to be a robust solution that's going to last a long time, which is why we kind of don't like the zippered solutions that much. We've seen them tear, we've seen them rip. They don't withstand a blower door test real well. So we're going to show you here something, or put a link in it for a much better solution. The next thing is, what type of insulation are you going to use? So this attic, as you can see, has fiberglass bats in it. It's got a little bit of rock wool here. Fiberglass bats can actually work really well, but it's difficult to insulate toward the perimeter of the home with them really well, because you end up having gaps where the roof comes down and meets the exterior wall. You can use blown-in fiberglass. That at least envelops everything, but we're not real big fans of that. We just feel that sometimes you can get some R-value loss, temperature extremes with blown fiberglass. What we like to use is blown-in cellulose. It's a natural, sustainable, non-toxic insulation. It does a great job insulating for us, and you'll see how we use that here if you want to hang on or look at some of the other videos. And the last thing that you need to do if you're going to hire a contractor is you really want to find someone that's using blower doors and is a building science-based company like InsulWise is, because if you're going to spend the money, you want to make sure that you're getting the result that you're paying for. And the number one way to do that is have somebody measure in with a blower door. They can tell you what the air leakages of the home before they started. They can do the work, and then they can test it when it's done and say, hey, Mr. and Mrs. Homeowner, this is the result that we actually achieved for you. Now, our teams at InsulWise are actually incentivized. If they reduce air infiltration in the home by 30% or more, everybody gets a bonus. So our guys here are in it to win it. But if you're going to hire someone to do this work and they're talking about air sealing, you really, really want them to be using blower door to test in and test out. If you live in the Pittsburgh area and would like to have InsulWise help you make your house more energy efficient, give us a call or click the link in the description below. And if you found this video helpful, please click the like and subscribe button.